Maya Mile was so furious that I was the breadwinner instead of her son. She set up a fake email account posing as me and ruined my dream job application. Then she tried to pay her way back into our lives when her scheme collapsed. Can you imagine someone you trust, someone who's supposed to be family, actively sabotaging your entire life? I mean, trying to ruin your career not once, but twice, then attempting to steal your child from daycare? And that's not even the half of it. What do you do when that same toxicity, that same manipulative drama, keeps rearing its ugly head years later, even with your ex-wife? Buckle up, because this is my story. Honestly, I can barely believe I'm telling you this. A few months ago, my life felt pretty stable. Not perfect, but good. I'm 30, and I had a solid job I genuinely loved, one that kept us afloat. My husband, Tyler, he's 34, was in a career slump, but I wasn't stressed. We were managing just fine. We have a beautiful 1-year-old son, Joey. Things were tight, sure, but we were happy. Or so I thought, until my dear mother-in-law, Megan, 55, decided to blow our world apart because she wanted her son to be a man. No, I am not kidding. That was her actual reason. For a while now, I've been the main breadwinner. Tyler's tried, he really has, but with the economy, layoffs, just plain bad luck, it hadn't worked out. I never, ever threw it in his face. He took amazing care of Joey, helped around the house, and he was always trying his best. But Megan? Oh, she simply couldn't handle it. From the moment we told her about our financial setup, she treated me like I was emasculating her precious son. It was constant little digs, those fake, sickly sweet smiles, underhanded comments like, "Oh, it must be so nice having a wife who pays all your bills." Classic manipulation, delivered with a step-forward smile. I thought it was just petty stuff, annoying but harmless. God, I was so wrong. Then I landed an interview for my absolute dream job. High-paying, incredible benefits, flexible hours. This wasn't just a job. This was our chance, the kind of opportunity that would give us a real cushion. Let's start planning for all the things we'd put off. A new car, a real savings account for Joey, maybe even a small family vacation. I crushed the interviews. Everyone seemed excited. And then radio silence. A week later, I got a rejection email. But it wasn't just a rejection. It hinted that I had sent some extremely unprofessional messages. My blood ran cold. I was horrified. I never sent anything like that ever. Fast forward a few days. Tyler found out from his own mother that she had created a fake email account, impersonated me, and sent those garbage emails to tank my opportunity. Let me say that again. She sabotaged my job application by pretending to be me and trashing the company. When Tyler confronted her, she didn't deny it. She actually said it was for the greater good. According to her, if I wasn't working, it would wake Tyler up and push him to become the provider God intended him to be. Excuse me? I was beyond shocked. I felt violated, utterly betrayed. She deliberately crushed a career opportunity, my future, our family's future, just to play out her twisted, old-school fantasy of turning her son into some 1950s sitcom dad. And she thought I'd be grateful in the long run. Tyler, though, he lost it. For the first time, he actually stood up to her. He told her she was done. Blocked her everywhere. No visits, no calls, no Joey. He was angry, embarrassed, and to his absolute credit, 100% on my side. At first, Megan stood firm on her twisted logic. She even said she'd do it again because she genuinely believed it was the only way to save our marriage. But then, reality hit. Money started getting tight. I was applying to jobs nonstop, but nothing was coming through. Tyler was doing what he could, freelance gigs, odd jobs, but it wasn't enough. Eventually, he reached out to Megan. Not to apologize, but to ask if she could help us out a little financially. You know what she said? "I'll help, but only if I can be back in Joey's life." She had the audacity to use our son as leverage. She acted like she was being generous, like she was swooping in to save the day. Suddenly, she was sorry. Suddenly, it was all a misunderstanding, and she didn't mean for it to go so far. Yeah, right. She just didn't expect her son's eye-opening moment to look like him asking her for cash. Now, she's sending these fake, sweet messages about family and healing, pretending like she didn't go full-blown villain just a month ago. She's even twisting the story to make it sound like she was just trying to help us get closer. Manipulator party of one, that's Megan. I told Tyler, no, absolutely not. If she wants to give money, fine. But she doesn't get access to Joey or to me or to our home. You don't get to sabotage my life and then buy your way back in when your plan flops. Tyler supports me, he really does, but I can see the guilt building up in him. He's tired, he's stretched thin, and deep down, he still wants his mom in his life. He started suggesting, maybe we let her visit just once? Or maybe she didn't realize what she was doing? But she did. She knew exactly what she was doing. And now I feel torn. I'm standing my ground because I have to protect myself and my son. But I see what it's doing to Tyler. We're barely getting by. We're stressed, exhausted, and I know he hates the tension. Still, if I let her back in, what message am I sending? That she can burn everything down and be welcomed back the moment she dangles a few dollars? I don't want to teach Joey that love comes with strings attached, or that family loyalty means forgiving betrayal without accountability. So, things escalated. It's been a few weeks since that confrontation, and I found a new job. Not quite the dream job I lost, but still, it's a great position, decent salary, awesome coworkers. I've been settling in, learning the ropes, and honestly, it feels like a fresh start. We're finally back on stable ground financially, and the stress in our house started to lift. Tyler was thrilled, and things were slowly returning to normal. Then Megan found out. Somehow, someone in her extended circle mentioned that I was working again. And just like that, she started trying to worm her way back into our lives. She sent us flowers, gift cards, even a ridiculously over-the-top care package for Joey. All of it went straight in the trash. I wasn't falling for her performance again. But here's where it gets worse. At my new job, we had this welcome event introducing new hires to company partners and senior staff. It was a low-key meet and greet, everyone's super friendly. But the very next day, my boss called me into her office, looking concerned. She said someone had left a voicemail claiming to be a concerned relative, warning the company that I was unreliable and had a history of creating conflict in the workplace. I was horrified. The message was anonymous, but I didn't need a detective to figure it out. Megan had done it again. The phrasing, the guilt-laced tone, that whole, "this is for her own good" language. It screamed her. I couldn't prove it, of course. But come on, who else would do that? None of my other relatives ever. Thankfully, my boss didn't take it seriously. She said all my references painted a different picture, and she considered the message fake. I told Tyler everything that night. He went dead silent for a few minutes, then said, "She's never meeting Joey again." He meant it. He hasn't spoken to her since. So, yeah, I have a job now. Things are okay. But Megan? She's made it very clear that she'll do whatever it takes to keep me from taking over her son's life, even if it means sabotaging my career again. I'm keeping everything documented now, just in case. It hurts that someone could be so obsessed with control that they would rather see us struggle than see me succeed. We went fully no contact after that. No messages, no visits, no chances. I blocked her on everything, and Tyler agreed. He was angry, heartbroken, and deeply ashamed that his own mother could stoop so low. We both needed peace, and for a little while we had it. But peace doesn't last long when Megan's involved. About a week ago, Joey's daycare called us in a panic. Someone had shown up unannounced, asking to pick up her grandson. Thankfully, the staff followed protocol and refused. When they asked for ID, the woman got flustered and left. The staff described her perfectly. Megan. I felt sick to my stomach. I don't know if she thought she could scare us or somehow rescue Joey from our home life, but either way, she crossed a huge, terrifying line. Trying to take our child without permission? That's not just controlling. That's dangerous. Tyler was done. Like done. He drove straight to her house without saying a word to me, stayed for less than 10 minutes, then came home. I asked what happened. He said he told her that if she ever came near us or Joey again, he'd involve the police. He said he saw a side of her he couldn't unsee, that she was no longer just a difficult mom. She was unhinged. Then he did something I didn't expect. He called a lawyer. He's in the process of drafting a formal cease and desist. We're also updating Joey's daycare pickup list, installing a camera outside our apartment, and letting close friends and neighbors know not to engage with Megan if she shows up. I didn't want it to come to this, but after that stunt, there's no question anymore. She's not just a manipulative mother-in-law. She's a threat. Tyler broke down that night. He kept apologizing over and over again for not seeing it sooner, for not protecting me earlier, for letting things get this far. But honestly, I don't blame him. He's hurting too. It's hard to accept that your own parent is willing to hurt your family just to feel in control. We're safe. Joey is safe. But the damage she's done emotionally is going to take time to heal. So now we're rebuilding, not just financially, but emotionally. And this time, we're doing it without her anywhere near our lives. Joey will not grow up around this kind of chaos. He'll know what safety, boundaries, and unconditional love look like. Just when we thought things had finally gone quiet, Megan found a new way to creep back in. Handwritten letters. Yep. Old school, dramatic, scented paper, emotionally manipulative letters. She mailed one to our apartment, then another, and then one to my workplace. The tone shifts wildly. Some letters are apologetic, claiming she only wanted the best and misses her grandson dearly. Others are full of guilt-tripping, like, "One day Joey will ask why you kept him from me, and a mother's love shouldn't be punished." We didn't respond. We didn't even open most of them after the first one. Straight into a folder, just like the rest of her behavior. But it's exhausting. It's like she's incapable of respecting boundaries. She always finds some way to push back in, even if we've made it very clear she's not welcome anymore. We're already dealing with enough, a new job, childcare, trying to emotionally recover from everything she's done. And now we have to deal with letters showing up like emotional bombs in our mailbox. It's not caring or touching. It's harassment disguised as affection. Tyler's talking to our lawyer again. If this continues, we're moving forward with filing a restraining order. We didn't want to take it there, but Megan refuses to let go. We're mentally and emotionally drained. Every time we try to move forward, she yanks us backward into her chaos. We don't hate her. We just want peace. But at this point, it feels like the only way to get that is to legally force her to leave us alone. This will be my last update on the Megan situation. And honestly, it feels good to say that. After everything she put us through, we decided it was time to leave. We didn't announce it, didn't talk to anyone in the family about our plans. We packed up and moved to a different state. The decision wasn't easy, but it was absolutely necessary. We were tired of looking over our shoulders, wondering what Megan would do next. She had already crossed multiple lines, and after the daycare incident, we weren't willing to risk another situation like that. We found a new place in a state where we have no mutual connections with her. We changed our phone numbers, deleted old social media accounts, and made sure all our information was private and secure. We've been here for about a month now. Luckily, I got to keep my job. I just transferred to a new location. Tyler also found a job a few weeks after we moved. It's full-time, permanent, and something he's genuinely interested in. He's earning well, and he feels good about contributing again. Joey is enrolled in a new daycare. We made sure the staff is aware of our situation and provided a list of approved pickup contacts. Megan's name is nowhere on it. We also gave them a photo of her and told them to contact us immediately if anyone unfamiliar ever comes asking about Joey. As far as we know, Megan still has no idea where we are. We haven't spoken to her, and neither has Tyler. A few relatives tried reaching out after noticing we were suddenly gone, but we kept it vague and said we just needed a fresh start. No one in Tyler's family knows our new address, phone numbers, or where we work. We've taken all the steps to make sure she can't interfere again. If she somehow does, we already have everything documented and are ready to take legal action immediately. But for now, it's quiet. And we're just focusing on moving forward. You'd think after all that, I'd get a break, right? Nope. Life, apparently, had another brutal lesson in store for me. this time involving my kids and their mother. I'm still processing what happened at my son's graduation just 3 days ago. My ex-wife decided to make an absolute scene, and now our entire family situation is blown wide open. Natalie and I divorced 4 years ago. Jake was 14, Emma was 12. What nobody knew, though, was the real reason we split. Natalie had been having an affair with her coworker, Mark, for 8 months before I found out. When I confronted her, she actually said she was following her heart and moved in with Mark within a month. We got 50-50 custody through mediation, but Natalie started canceling her time more frequently. First, it was occasional weekends when she and Mark wanted to take trips. Then, regular weekdays for Mark's work events. By year 2, I had the kids 70% of the time. The kids noticed. Jake got resentful about his mom's other priorities. Emma was more forgiving, but even she started commenting on Mom always being busy with Mark stuff. By year 3, Natalie treated custody like it was completely optional. She'd take them 2 nights instead of 3.5, skipping weekends if Mark had plans. The kids adapted by simply assuming they'd be at my place most of the time. It naturally became their primary home. I never modified the custody agreement because the informal arrangement worked, and honestly, I didn't want more conflict. The real shift happened about 18 months ago when both kids started actively choosing my place during Natalie's scheduled time. Jake would text about projects needing his computer set up at his dad's house. Emma would say she'd made plans with friends to meet at dad's. Looking back, I can see how Natalie must have felt like she was losing them. But I was just being a consistent parent. I went to every school event, every game, every parent conference. When they were sick, they wanted Dad's house because they knew I'd be there, not juggling their needs with Mark's schedule. Jake's graduation last weekend was at the football stadium. I saved seats for Natalie and Mark, my parents, and my sister's family. Natalie arrived about 20 minutes before the ceremony, clearly in a bad mood. She barely acknowledged my parents, made a few passive-aggressive comments, and then, when Jake's name was called, she leaned over to my mom and said, "I'm so proud of the son I raised, despite everything." After the ceremony, families were taking pictures. That's when Natalie made her move. She pulled Jake aside, but we could all hear her speech. It was all about how much she loved him, how hard she'd worked to be a good mother, even when others tried turning him against her. She said she knew he'd been spending more time at Dad's house, but she understood he'd been brainwashed and didn't blame him. The whole family went quiet, but Jake, 18 and utterly done with his mom's drama, wasn't having it. He told her, "Nobody brainwashed me. I chose to spend time at Dad's because Dad was actually there." He said if she wanted him around more, maybe she shouldn't have chosen Mark over her family 4 years ago, and maybe she should stop canceling whenever something better came up. You could have heard a pin drop. But Jake wasn't done. He said, everyone deserved to know the truth about why his parents divorced since she wanted to talk about brainwashing. He was tired of protecting her reputation when she'd never protected their feelings. Natalie completely lost it. She started yelling that Jake didn't know what he was talking about, that I'd poisoned him, that she'd been nothing but devoted. Mark physically pulled her toward the parking lot while she kept shouting. It was mortifying, but somehow deeply satisfying to have the truth out. Emma wasn't at graduation, but she heard about it from Jake and has been unusually quiet since. She's always been closer to her mom and is really struggling with everything being out in the open now. I haven't heard from Natalie since, but Mark texted asking if we could talk like adults. Things have definitely escalated. Family members from graduation have been calling, and the truth coming out has had some really interesting consequences. My parents called, saying they were proud of how I'd handled everything. They'd suspected something was off about the divorce, but never wanted to pry. My sister was less diplomatic, saying she'd noticed Natalie barely interacted with Jake and Emma at family events for years. The bigger development, though, was Emma coming to me asking to talk. She'd been making excuses for her mom's behavior for years because she didn't want to believe her mom would choose Mark over her and Jake. Hearing Jake say it all out loud, though, made her realize she'd been lying to herself. Emma listed heartbreaking examples. How her mom would promise to help shop for homecoming dresses, then cancel for Mark's work events. How Natalie missed Emma's middle school graduation for a weekend getaway. The worst was when Emma called crying after a bad school day, and Natalie said she couldn't talk because of date night with Mark and would call back later. Emma waited hours for that call that never came, finally calling me instead. Emma said she'd convinced herself her mom was just busy, but hearing Jake lay out the pattern made her realize she'd been making excuses for someone who simply wasn't prioritizing her kids. She asked if she could skip her mom's scheduled time this week to think. I texted Natalie that Emma was staying with me and needed time to process. Natalie immediately called, our first contact since the ceremony. She alternated between furious and desperate. She accused me of finally getting what I wanted by turning both kids against her. Then she cried, saying she knew she'd made mistakes, but was trying to build a life with Mark and thought the kids understood adults need companionship. I told her the kids understood that, but they also needed a mom who showed up consistently. The conversation went nowhere. She hung up saying this wasn't over, and she'd talked to a lawyer about modifying custody since I'd been alienating the kids. I met with Mark yesterday, and that conversation was not what I expected. Mark started by apologizing for Natalie's graduation behavior. Then he said something that completely threw me off. He'd actually been trying to get Natalie to be more involved with Jake and Emma for 2 years, but she kept making excuses about why she couldn't prioritize them more. Mark said he'd noticed Natalie seemed almost relieved when the kids chose to stay at my place instead of coming to their house. The truly shocking part was when he told me he'd been pushing for Natalie to fight for more custody time, not less. He liked Jake and Emma and wanted them to be a bigger part of their life together. After Jake's graduation speech, Natalie had a complete breakdown at home. She'd been crying for days, saying everyone hated her and her kids would never forgive her. But when Mark suggested she call them to apologize and make things right, she said it was too late and pointless. Mark asked if I thought the kids would be open to family counseling with Natalie. I told him honestly that the kids were old enough to decide what kind of relationship they wanted with their mom, but Natalie would have to take real accountability instead of blaming everyone else. The biggest development happened this morning. Natalie showed up at my house around 9 o'clock, looking like she hadn't slept in days. She asked if she could talk to Emma, who said okay, but only if I stayed in the room. What followed was probably the most honest conversation Natalie has had with either kid in years. She didn't make excuses or blame anyone else. She told Emma she'd been a selfish mother and convinced herself the kids were better off with me because it was easier than admitting she didn't know how to balance her new marriage with being present for them. Natalie said she'd been so focused on making Mark happy and proving their relationship was worth blowing up our family for that she'd forgotten her kids needed her to show up regardless of what else was happening. She was ashamed of how she'd handled everything. And Jake was right to call her out. Emma asked why she blamed Dad and Jake for brainwashing instead of just admitting she'd messed up. Natalie said she was embarrassed and defensive and lashed out instead of taking responsibility. Emma then asked if Natalie was only apologizing because everyone found out the truth, or if she'd been planning to change even if Jake hadn't said anything. Natalie was quiet for a long time before admitting she probably would have kept making excuses. Emma told her she appreciated the apology, but needed time to think about whether she was ready for a closer relationship again. She'd spent too many years getting disappointed and making excuses for Natalie's choices and wasn't sure she trusted that things would actually be different this time. After Natalie left, Emma asked if I thought people could really change. I told her some people could, but actions mattered more than words, and it was okay to protect herself while figuring out what she wanted her relationship with her mom to look like. Okay guys, so the drama has officially reached peak levels. Natalie's attempt at making amends lasted exactly 4 days before she completely imploded again. But this time, the fallout is affecting more than just our immediate family. It started 3 days ago when Natalie called asking if she could take Emma out for a mother-daughter day. They were supposed to leave at 10 o'clock in the morning and be back by dinner time. At 3 o'clock in the afternoon, I got a call from Emma asking if I could come pick her up from the mall because her mom had ditched her to deal with an emergency with Mark. Apparently, Natalie's boss had been trying to reach her all morning because there was a crisis at the hospital that only Natalie could resolve. Instead of apologizing to Emma and explaining that she had a work emergency, Natalie completely freaked out. She started yelling at Mark for tracking her down and ruining her day with Emma. The whole argument happened in front of Emma, who said she was mortified by her mom's behavior in public. Eventually, Mark just left, and Natalie spent the next hour crying and ranting to Emma about how nobody understood how hard she was trying. Emma said it was like watching her mom have a complete breakdown. The next day, Natalie called Emma to apologize for the mall incident, but instead of taking accountability, she started making excuses again. Emma told her that the problem wasn't having a work emergency, it was how Natalie handled it. Emma said she would have understood about cutting their day short for work, but she couldn't deal with her mom having a public meltdown and then making her feel guilty about it. The conversation ended with Natalie hanging up on Emma, who came to me in tears, saying she was done trying to have a relationship with her mom. But it gets worse. Yesterday, my sister called to tell me that Natalie had reached out to several family members, asking them to talk to Jake and Emma about giving her another chance. Natalie was telling everyone that I was poisoning the kids against her and that the family needed to intervene. My mom was not having any of it. She told Natalie that she'd watched me bend over backward for 4 years to facilitate the kids' relationship with their mom, and that Natalie's problems with Jake and Emma were entirely of her own making. My sister was even more direct, telling Natalie that the family had been politely ignoring her obvious lack of involvement with the kids for years. The final straw was this morning when Natalie showed up at Jake's job, demanding to talk to him. Jake's manager had to ask Natalie to leave because she was disrupting the store. Jake called me afterward, absolutely furious, and said he was done with his mom's drama. I don't even know what to do at this point. Natalie has managed to blow up any chance she had of repairing things with the kids, and now she's alienating the extended family, too. Mark texted me this morning, saying he's considering whether his marriage can survive Natalie's inability to take responsibility for her own choices. Part of me feels bad for Natalie because she's clearly struggling, but another part of me is just exhausted by the constant drama she creates whenever she doesn't get the response she wants. The kids are both doing well and seem relieved to have clear boundaries, but I hate that they're having to deal with this level of dysfunction from their own mother. I guess the silver lining is that everyone now sees the situation clearly, and Jake and Emma don't have to pretend anymore or make excuses for behavior that was never okay. So, after all of this, the constant manipulation, the betrayals, the outright threats, the emotional toll on everyone involved, it really makes you rethink what family truly means. We've had to make some incredibly hard choices to protect our peace and our kids. And honestly, it's been a long, painful journey of learning just how far some people will go and how firm you have to be in your boundaries. I'm curious, have any of you ever had to deal with such extreme family situations? How did you handle it? What was your breaking point? And what did you do to finally find peace? Let me know in the comments below. I really want to hear your thoughts.